It's hard to believe it, but the Ducati Monster is 30 years old. 1993, the first version, the Ducati Monster 900 came out. I can remember it well, and today we're going to be riding the latest iteration. It's the Monster SP. So for those of us of a certain age, we can remember the Monster. Now, bit of a history lesson. Back in the early 1990s, Ducati was absolutely smashing it in the World Superbike Championship. Some things don't change, but what was different then is that as a company, they were kind of struggling. They had these really exotic, expensive superbikes, and then they had a range of old and clatty old air-cooled sports bikes. I know, I had one. The truth is they just weren't selling enough bikes, and they were in financial trouble. So some marketing bod came up with the idea of let's make a bit of a parts bin special. So they took the 851 superbike trellis frame, they slotted in the engine out the 900 SS, and they made the Monster. And you know what? It sold loads. The company went from strength to strength, and here we are today. The Monster really was the golden goose for Ducati in the 1990s and early 2000s. The 900 was quickly joined by other bikes in the range, even a 400, 600, 750, all using the old air-cooled 2-valve engine. In recent years, the Ducati range has gone and expanded, and it's gone from strength to strength. The company is in rude health. They've slimmed down a lot of the Monster models, probably because the Street Fighter takes over the mantle as a more performance-orientated bike. And last year, Ducati introduced a new Monster. One model in the range with a 937cc V-twin engine, which is shared with many other mid-range Ducatis. And that Monster fits in a very competitive marketplace. Now, I really get this kind of bike. I'm an experienced rider. I've been riding for 30 years. I want something a little bit more than the sort of 700cc parallel twins that are out there, but I'm really not that interested in a sort of super naked 1000cc 4. And these models have really come to the fore in the last couple of years. Bikes I'm talking about, the Triumph Street Triple, the KTM Duke 890, Yamaha's MT-09, and the Monster, the base model Monster, sits competitively priced against the higher end versions of those bikes. But it brings something a bit different. This is the only V-twin that you can get in the range, and it's the only one that's got that Ducati logo on the tank. So this latest generation Monster was released last year with a standard version, which we've already ridden on the channel. You can find that on our YouTube page. But this is the SP version. It's new for 2023. So we're going to go out and see what it's all about. So this SP version costs just under £14,000. That's a lot of money for a sort of 900cc middleweight naked bike. But look at it, you have got so much cool stuff going on here. I think it looks great. You know, when it first came out and we saw the pictures, I was a bit nonplussed about it. But then you look at it in the metal and it is absolutely stunning. And it's not just the Öhlins forks and the cool dashboard and the Brembo brakes. It's the detailing, and that's where Ducati, they see themselves as a premium brand, and that's where they kind of put their money on the table and they show it. Little things, the routing of the cables, there's very few pieces of exposed wiring, exposed pipe work. You see those indicators there? Most manufacturers, they've got generic indicators that they share across 4 or 5 models in the range. Because it's cheaper, it means you've got less parts to stock. They've got these really beautiful integrated indicators on this bike, and that might not seem like a big thing, but for me it just screams they care enough about it to design their own indicators for this bike. I love the way that this bike looks. The detailing and the build quality on this bike is phenomenal, and as someone who owned a 1990s Ducati, I cannot believe I'm saying that. So that 14 grand price tag, it does seem like a lot, and compared to standard Monster, yeah, you do get quite a lot for your money. It's got the Terminioni exhaust, for example. Now that's an accessory option on the standard model, which would set you back pretty much all of the extra wedge that it's going to cost you for the SP version. And there's loads of other nice little details on this. The engine, it's the same, 111 horsepower, and it's more than adequate. They didn't really need to think about that. You got those better suspension, better brakes. You know, it's not just the names, actually great quality. Electronics are phenomenal on the standard model. They're pretty much the same on this. They do give you an extra wet riding mode. Tires, it's got Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4s on it, and just little things like the seat cowl. Again, it's an optional extra if you got the standard model. So if you're thinking of getting the standard Monster and speccing it up with all the accessories, you probably want to be looking at this in the first place. It's got quite an aggressive feel. When you get on it, you sort of perched up quite high with a little bit of weight over the front end. That was a little bit alarming at first, but it's so light. It's 166 kilograms, this bike. Okay, a little bit more when you put the fuel in it, but that is not a lot. That is very light for a modern Euro 5 bike, and it feels it when you push it around. It really carries its weight beautifully. It is quite a tall seat height. At 840 millimeters, it's 40 millimeters taller than the standard Monster, and actually there's a lowering kit available for the standard bike as well, which can take the suspension down by another 25 mil. So if you're really bothered about that, then you probably want to be looking at the standard bike. But look, I'm a shorty, I'm a stubby little bloke, and I have no problems with this bike. The main reason being that although the seat height is quite high, the saddle is very narrow, and that means that your legs aren't splayed out. So I wouldn't worry about the headline figure too much. There is an accessory seat available which takes it down a little bit more, which I probably just gives a bit less padding in it and probably will affect your comfort on it. And it's the engine that makes this a real treat. You know, this is a million miles away from the early 1990s Ducati Monsters, but actually the philosophy is kind of similar. The trellis frame's gone, but that trellis frame in the original bike was actually taken from the superbike of the day, and this frame here is very similar to the one that you find on the Panigale superbike. The motor, it's got so much character. You know, one of the things that Ducati bring is they bring that classic 90-degree V-twin engine. There are twins out there, parallel twins out there, there's triples out there, and even things like the Kawasaki 4 you could say is a bit of a competitor to this, but nothing really beats that bark, the sound and the punch that a V-twin gives you. The only thing I'm not so keen on is that if you try and be lazy with it and burble away from low revs, it's a little bit sort of rough, but that's kind of normal in normal riding on the open roads. It's an absolute peach of an engine. So, is it worth that 14 grand price tag? Look, only you can decide that. If you're the sort of person that likes nice things, you like the best phone, nice clothes, this should definitely be in your consideration. I think I'd rather have one of these than a 1000cc 4-cylinder super naked. Look, Ducati, it's a bit more expensive. I know they've got the Street Fighter. It gives you that rush, that sporting edge. But for me, as someone who just enjoys riding on the roads and a bit of a hobby nowadays, I totally get this bike. I totally get why you would invest that extra money in this over the standard version. The weather's not been great in our time with the Monster, but the roads are dry now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some really good quality miles on this bike. There is so much to talk about, the spec and all the cool details on this bike. I'm going to go out for another ride before we have to hand it back, and then we're going to have a full write-up on the Inside Bikes website. We'll put the URL below. Go there, get our full thoughts. Until the next time, thanks for watching.